December 2015. Inside the FBI headquarters, in the kind of room where decisions are not emotional, they are administrative. Screens with maps, folders with codes, people who speak little and write a lot. And even there, in the heart of what should be control, a gesture occurs that seems impossible. A name is being removed. It is not a capture. It is not a confirmed death. It is not an extradition. It is a removal. A name leaves as if it were worn out, as if the system were saying, without saying, it's not going to happen. And this generates a short circuit in the brain of whoever hears it, because the rule of the world is different. The rule of the world is, someone gets on that list and leaves in handcuffs, or leaves in a bag. When a name leaves without any of that, reality starts to look like a lie. There is a number that makes this scene even heavier. That was so rare, it was almost a historical event within the institution. An exceptional case in decades. And when an institution that lives by repeating patterns creates such a silent exception, the silence becomes a moral headline. For those watching, the story hasn't even begun, and there is already a sense of defeat. Not the defeat of the criminal escaped. The most humiliating defeat. The system failed. And the brain asks the question that keeps any audience captivated because it's not curiosity, it's indignation. What kind of man does that? The second question comes right after, deeper, more dangerous. Did the FBI give up? The word "gave up" is a narrative poison. It forces you to stay. Because it's not about understanding details, it's about seeing a giant being forced to admit limits. Then, the narrative places two images on the same screen, and the collision of these images sticks. The first image is what you expect. Bunker, jungle, escape, hideout, people in tunnels, paranoia. An international target lives surrounded by fear. That's how the world has been trained to imagine. The second image destroys that expectation. Champagne in a suburb of Moscow. A quiet toast, winter outside, and inside, a life that is in no hurry. Luxury with normality, impunity with routine, guilt living as if it were deserving. And the image becomes even more disturbing when the script adds the symbolic shield. It's not just a man hiding, it is a man being sheltered. It is not a hideout, it is sponsorship. The moral contrast is instant and automatic. The mind understands without needing an explanation. Proof on one side, comfort on the other. What should be a hunt turns into a ceremony. Then the text does something else that grabs, stacks, document against reality. On the document side, block accusations, pages, numbered points, years of work. People who risked their lives to become witnesses. Analysts who spent nights cross-referencing companies with companies, account with account, phone with phone. A castle of evidence. On the reality side, none of that mattered. The feeling is like hunting a white whale, and when you finally think you are close, you discover you're not hunting an animal. You are trying to lasso a tornado, because it's not a lack of proof. It's a lack of access. And when access is missing, proof turns into paper. Paper doesn't cross borders on its own. The narrative returns to the questions like hammer blows, and each hammer blow opens a new loop. How is this possible? What kind of man does this? Did the FBI give up? These questions do not ask for information. They ask for justice. They ask for moral closure. And it is this type of debt that holds more than any technical mystery, because the viewer doesn't just want to know what happened. He wants to feel that the world still works. When the tension is high, the script injects an operational scene with numbers, precision, and metal. Time, place, team. An organized raid. A sequence that seems like a movie, only with the weight of reality. 47 agents, flashbang grenades, crackling radios, doors kicked in, quick steps, firm hands. The audience breathes together because the brain recognizes the format. The moment has arrived when the state does what it does. This is the classic promise of authority. When it steps in, it resolves. But the reward doesn't come as expected. It comes inverted. Instead of a laboratory, a set. Instead of production, a prop. Instead of a real factory, a theater factory. Machines in the right place to deceive a camera. A line set up as if it had a history. without ever having produced anything. A space designed to convince visitors, investors, inspectors, and the curious. A stage where the fraud wasn't hidden, it was performed. This changes the type of shock. It's no longer, "we caught a gang." It's, "we were invited to believe." The action becomes revelation. And the revelation is worse because it's elegant. The scam wasn't a theft, it was a false reality built methodically. The narrative descends from the epic to the everyday. And this adds weight, because financial crime becomes abstract quickly. Large numbers anesthetize, so the text brings the ground closer to the spectator's body. Pension funds, teachers, firefighters, retirees. Clean people, people without moral ambiguity. People who weren't betting out of greed, but out of trust. The collective victim appears as a mirror. It could be your father, your mother, your neighbor. This gives total emotional permission to hate the antagonist and desire justice without guilt. And the antagonist begins to become something else, not just a man, a phantom villain. He doesn't appear physically. He doesn't set foot on American soil. He doesn't offer the simple pleasure of capture. He exists as a signature. Faxes, calls, transfers, shell companies that are born and die as if they were smoke. An orchestra that never gathers on the same stage. A conductor who directs from afar and therefore leaves no trace. The effect of this on the mind is powerful. The villain becomes an entity, almost a myth. And a myth is compelling because a myth can't be resolved with handcuffs. A myth is resolved by shattering its world. Thus, the conflict changes form. The story shifts from catch the man to catch the jurisdiction. The plot begins to revolve around a mechanism the audience understands without needing to be experts. To prosecute, physical presence is required. To have physical presence, extradition is needed. To have extradition, an agreement is necessary. And an agreement depends on politics. From this point on, every attempt at justice encounters the same bottleneck. Justice is not weak due to lack of strength, but due to lack of a gateway. The villain is not invincible due to bravery. He is invincible due to architecture. And the text takes a short step back to show character in one sentence. A flash of morally repulsive origin. Not to build empathy, but to engrave an axiom. At the beginning, he deceived vulnerable families. Promises, documents, hope. He chooses those with the least defense. He learns early that a victim is not a person. It is a resource. The idea sticks. Victims don't matter. Only power matters. And when this axiom sinks in, everything that follows seems inevitable. The viewer feels that they are not seeing a case. They are seeing a logic in action. Next, the script accelerates with a hammering rhythm of a list. Enumeration is emotional speed. The list creates monstrous grandeur without demanding immediate proof of each detail. Weapons, drugs, human trafficking, laundering, identities, passports. A chain of crimes that grows as if it were a spreading shadow. The more items, the more the monster seems too large to fit in a cell. At this point, the story scales up in steps, each step recontextualizing the previous one. It starts as a financial case. Money, fraud, civilian victim. Then it becomes a transnational crime. Network, multiple countries, dispersed operators. And finally, it becomes a state, geopolitical protection. This third step is what changes everything, because it explains impunity without romanticizing it. It's not, he's too smart. It's, he has become too useful. The script translates geopolitics into a simple, domestic, impossible-to-ignore image. A phone call, and millions are left without heating. An invisible button that turns off the winter. When the consequence turns to a cold house, the scale turns to fear. Abstract becomes concrete, and the viewer understands why certain men are not treated like common criminals. Because interfering with them interferes with mechanisms that affect too many people. Invincibility appears as layered armor. Shell companies, multiple citizenships, political protection, absence of treaties. Each layer is another life bar. And the script repeats the sensation with slight variations until it becomes certain. There is no single weak point. There is an entire system designed to never offer the perfect angle. When everything fails, the last symbolic resort comes in. The most wanted list. The nuclear weapon of reputation. The promise that this works, that the capture rate is high, that this list is made to close stories. And the story makes the most outrageous move of all, showing the nuclear weapon failing. Failing here is not just, we didn't capture him. It changed nothing. There was no tremor. There was no escape. There was no retreat. The list turns to paper, too. And this reinforces the most uncomfortable thesis. Above a certain level of wealth, power, and protection, the law becomes optional. To keep the viewer engaged until the end, the script provides a mini-climax of hope and crushing. A spark. Arrested in Moscow. For an instant, the audience feels catharsis approaching. Finally, a sign that the world has teeth. And, right afterward, the destruction of that hope. It's not serious. Quietly released. Without spectacle, without weight, without consequence. This proves something that leaves a bitter taste. He's not hiding. He is sheltered. The real climax is not police-related, it is moral. The name removed from the list becomes a public admission of limit. An ending without victory. A conclusion without handcuffs. An end where the world does not deliver justice. It delivers a message. There are people out of reach when they are protected by the right kind of power. And the last question closes the episode and opens the next one inside the listener's mind. How many others are doing the same now? How many have already discovered that the secret is not to evade the law, but to become too valuable to be touched? How many have already understood that, in certain places, justice is not a matter of evidence, it is a matter of permission? Because this is the kind of story that doesn't end with, "and he was arrested." It ends with an uncomfortable truth that doesn't let go of you when the narration ends. The system did not fail due to incompetence. It failed because it found a limit it will not admit aloud. And when that limit appears, silence becomes the loudest answer there is.